Trump called Iran's response to the U.S. peace offer a piece of garbage. He said he didn't even finish reading it. Then he went on camera and told the whole world that the peace deal is now on massive life support. So why did the deal collapse? And more importantly, what is the U.S. about to do next? What cards does America still have? The U.S. sent Iran a 14-point proposal. Stop enriching uranium for at least 12 years, hand over your existing nuclear stockpile, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In return, the U.S. lifts sanctions and releases billions in frozen Iranian assets. Iran sent back a counter-proposal demanding compensation for war damage, sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, a full end to the U.S. naval blockade, and UN security guarantees. And notably left out any mention of the nuclear stockpile Trump says they had verbally agreed to hand over. Trump posted, "Totally unacceptable," in all caps, then told reporters he didn't finish reading it. The ceasefire that's been technically holding since April 8th is now on life support. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed to most shipping. Oil is sitting near $105 a barrel, up about 50% since Friday. And some Trump aides are now telling reporters they think everyone knows where this is heading. So what is that exactly? The playbook. The U.S. military has been quietly updating its target list for weeks. Defense Secretary Hegseth publicly confirmed that Iran used the ceasefire period to move surviving military assets to new positions. He made it clear the U.S. knows where they went. There are roughly 4 options being discussed inside the administration right now. The first is resuming Project Freedom, the operation to escort commercial ships through the strait with U.S. destroyers. It launched May 4th, lasted about 24 hours before Iran shot at the ships and Trump paused it. And it's now sitting on standby. Experts are skeptical it works long term. Iran's coastal terrain, caves, hidden bases, islands, gives it natural cover that air power alone can't neutralize. But it's the lowest escalation option and probably the first move if talks collapse. The second option is targeted strikes on Iran's remaining strait defenses. These are the fast attack boats, the mine-laying vessels, the shore-based missile launchers aimed at ships, the assets that are keeping the waterway closed right now. It's more limited than a full bombing campaign, but sends a clear signal. The third is resuming the full bombing campaign and hitting the roughly 25% of identified Iranian targets the U.S. deliberately left untouched during the initial war. That includes energy infrastructure, power plants, oil facilities, bridges, targets Trump has threatened publicly but hasn't yet pulled the trigger on. Analysts say going there would be a serious escalation. One expert put it plainly. Once you pull that lever, you're basically pushing Iran closer to the edge of the abyss. The fourth, pushed aggressively by Israel, is a special forces operation to physically seize Iran's enriched uranium stockpile before Tehran can do anything else with it. Trump is reportedly hesitant. The mission is extraordinarily high risk. And there's also a China factor to consider. Trump is in Beijing this week. And U.S. officials say he's unlikely to order anything major before he lands back in Washington. What Iran still has. Here's the part the U.S. government doesn't love to advertise. And fair warning, independent verification of any of these numbers is nearly impossible right now. No outside observers are getting into Iran. Both sides have every reason to spin the numbers in their favor. And the fog of war is about as thick as it gets. What we have are U.S. intelligence assessments, Iranian state claims, and analysts trying to read between the lines. So take the specifics with some skepticism, but the broad picture is consistent across sources. The White House spent weeks claiming Iran's military was obliterated. Trump said its navy was annihilated and sitting at the bottom of the sea. The reality, according to U.S. intelligence assessments, is considerably more complicated. Roughly half of Iran's missile launchers survived the initial bombing campaign. The reason is simple. Iran spent decades hiding them in tunnel networks and hardened underground facilities, specifically designed for this scenario. The Defense Intelligence Agency told Congress that Iran still retains thousands of missiles and one-way attack drones capable of threatening U.S. and allied forces across the region. The Navy situation is similar. Trump's claim was that the U.S. destroyed 158 Iranian naval vessels. What didn't get mentioned is that Iran's most dangerous maritime force isn't its conventional warships. It's the IRGC's so-called Mosquito Fleet. Hundreds to potentially thousands of small, fast-attack speedboats operating out of sea caves and hidden island bases along the Iranian coast. The US sank some of them. Iran builds more. A military analyst and Marine Corps veteran, R.P. Newman, described leaving that fleet intact during the initial strikes as a fundamental mistake. We've blown up 6 of them, he said. They've got about 400 left, though estimates across sources range from hundreds to potentially thousands. Those boats are what's keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed. They operate in shallow water where US submarines can't maneuver effectively. They swarm, they lay mines. Iran's stockpile of sea mines alone is estimated between 2,000 and 6,000, most of them domestically manufactured. And critically, Iran reportedly lost track of some of the mines it already planted, meaning even if a deal gets signed, reopening the strait safely would take weeks of painstaking clearance operations. The IRGC ground force is also largely intact. One military analyst estimated the US has killed less than 1% of IRGC troops, leaving a force of between 150,000 and 190,000 personnel still fully operational. Why Iran won't break? The question everyone is asking is why Iran still keeps holding firm when it's clearly taking a beating. The economy is losing millions of dollars a day. The supreme leader is dead. Thousands of military personnel have been killed, so why won't they just deal? The answer is what happened in February. Iran was already in negotiations with the US twice when the strikes began. Both times talks were ongoing when the bombs fell. Tehran now operates on the assumption that making concessions doesn't stop American attacks. It just signals weakness and invites more. Iran's lead negotiator said recently the country is prepared for every option. Iranian officials have drawn a hard line. The nuclear program is not on the table until the war on every front, including Lebanon, is formally over. Washington says Lebanon is a separate issue. Tehran says it isn't. That gap is not close to closing. And Iran knows it has at least one card the US needs. The Strait of Hormuz stays closed until there's a deal, which means the global economy keeps bleeding. Every week without a resolution is another week of $105 oil, stranded cargo ships, and rising pressure on Trump from allies who are getting hurt badly. What comes next? The ceasefire is not officially dead. Both sides are still technically talking through Pakistani mediators, but the momentum is moving in one direction. The most likely near-term scenario is some form of escalated military pressure, either resuming Project Freedom in the Strait or limited strikes designed to degrade Iran's ability to keep ships out. A full resumption of the bombing campaign is possible, but less likely before Trump returns from China Friday. What's clear is that the window for a diplomatic exit is getting very narrow. Iran thinks it can outlast the economic pressure. The US thinks Iran will eventually crack. Both of them have been wrong about each other before, and the costs of being wrong again are measured in oil prices, stranded sailors, and the question of whether the war that officially started February 28th is about to enter its second act. If you want to know what happens if the US actually puts boots on the ground in Iran, watch the video you now see on the screen. Thanks for watching.